Welcome to the St. Thomas More Lynchburg's Homily Podcast. We join Father John Christian as he brings his insight and application to the readings for the fifth Sunday of Lent.
As we consider the Scriptures moving closer and closer to Passiontide, we see how our Lord establishes a pattern that echoes down to us through our Catholic culture. Think of or consider the church bells like the ones right above us. We hear them ring throughout the day. At a couple of determined hours, we hear them ring the Angelus, calling the faithful to prayer. We hear them at the end of the day, at that conclusion at 9 p.m. We call that one the De Profundis bell, from the phrase at the beginning of Psalm 130 that we have heard in this liturgy, Clamavi De Profundis. From the depths I cry to you, O Lord. And so these bells mark these patterns of human life, the life of the faithful. And so at the end of the day, when the sun has set, 9 p.m., and things are getting dark, we call it the De Profundis bell because it reminds us to pray for our dearly departed. It reminds us to pray for those who cry out from the depths. It reminds us of all who've gone before us, and it reminds us in charity to pray for them. And as we think of them, it then, of course, reminds us by necessity of what has to be probably the single greatest scandal to the faithful, and that is the very death of our dearly beloved. For what thing can be a greater scandal to the Christian than the loss of those whom we love, parent, spouse, God forbid, child? For when we lose one beloved of us, when we lose one dear to us, it seems to almost make a mockery of that deep affection, of that deep charity, of that deep love. And so how can we, as people of faith, even begin to reconcile that? How can we go forward in life when the one who is with us, or that one who is dear to us, is no longer present? And while it's one thing to understand as a Christian, we know that death isn't the end. It's quite another to ultimately feel it. And this is what we see that pattern of in this story of Lazarus, the friend of our Lord, whom he raised from the dead. For as much as we love our dearly beloved, there is someone who loves us infinitely more than we are ever capable of loving or being loved. And that is, of course, our Lord Jesus Christ. The love that we have certainly preserves memory, but it doesn't have the power to raise the dead. Our love does not unseal the grave, but the love of Christ our Lord does. And we hear how he went to the tomb of his friend Lazarus, and Jesus wept there. And then, of course, groaning and looking up to heaven, he calls Lazarus forth out of the tomb. And such is that love of our Lord Jesus Christ, such is its profundity, that it can undo the power of the natural order, that it can undo the power of the grave, that it can undo that ultimate separation that is death. And so the piece that I would put forward for consideration, especially in this reading, is consider those words. Our Lord said, Lazarus, come out. He didn't just say, come out, or whoever's in there, come out, or the dead man in there, come out, or old-time friend of mine, come out. He calls him by name. He says, Lazarus, come out. And so it is with each and every single one of us. At that last day, at the end of time, and the resurrection, when body and soul will be reunited for all time, the Lord himself will call each and every single one of us by name to come out and to enter into that eternal glory. He will say our names. He will say Michael, Jim, Bob, James, Jack, whatever the names are. We will all be called by name by our Lord. It will all be a communal thing, but also an individual thing, for our Lord knows each and every one of us. And so when we consider the depth and breadth of the love of our Lord Jesus Christ, we ask ourselves, what's our response to this? What can we do? How should we respond when we know we are so loved? Well, there's nothing better that we can do for our own beloved than to commend them unto the love of our Lord Jesus Christ. to love God above all things and to love our neighbors, our friends, and our beloved for that sake of the love of God, to commend them to Him. And so I would say as we prepare to enter into this Easter season, many of us have had family members, friends, close associates, whoever it may be, that for whatever reason have perhaps wandered from the faith. Maybe there was an aspect of church teaching they found that they found difficult and struggled with, or just fell out of the habit, or fell into a pattern of addiction that separated them from the larger community, whatever it might be. This is the time to invite them to come back, to invite them to come to church for Easter. Most people grow up with that, going to church on Easter. It is a familiarity to it, or it might even be new. But what remains is to invite them to come to our Lord Jesus Christ at those great Paschal feasts of Easter. They don't have to be persuaded or cajoled. The simple reason when they say, well, why? Why should I do that? Why should I come to that? I haven't been to church in 20 years, or it's boring, or I don't want to go hear the man talk. Whatever it is, we just say, it's because I love you. That's it. That's why. I would like you to come to church with me this Easter because I love you, and I love you because I love God, and I love you for that sake of that love of God. That is our response as Christians when we are faced with the sheer magnitude, we don't have the English words for it, the sheer splendor of the love of our Lord Jesus Christ that unseals the grave for all time, that bridges every chasm, even those that seem most permanent.
Thank you for tuning in to the St. Thomas More Lynchburg's Homily Podcast. For the daily reading and to learn more about the community of St. Thomas More, please visit our website at www.stmva.org. If you were blessed by our podcast today, please give it a like, a kind review, and share it with a friend. God bless.